All right, today we're gearing up and dropping into Arc Raiders. This is a game that made a really bold pivot, going from a team-based shooter to a super high-stakes extraction adventure. So let's break down what that even means and figure out if this sci-fi hunt is the one for you. You know, Amelia Earhart once said, "Adventure is worthwhile in itself." But in the world of Arc Raiders, that adventure, well, it comes with a pretty steep price. This is a game that's built on the idea that every single mission is a gamble, where the only story that matters is the one you survive to tell.
So you're dropped into this hostile, but honestly, beautiful landscape. As a raider, you're one of the few standing against this relentless mechanical threat. And out here, every single choice matters, from the gear you decide to carry to the path you take. That's what separates a legendary haul from, well, losing absolutely everything.
So what is Arc Raiders, really? It's definitely not just another shooter. To really get it, you've got to look at its journey, from where it started to the extraction-based thrill ride that it is today.
The basic idea is pretty simple, but man, is it compelling. You're a raider, and you're fighting this alien invasion of robotic beings called Ark. You're out there scavenging, surviving, and blasting your way through the ruins of a lost civilization, all to grab resources and, most importantly, get out alive.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. You see, Arc Raiders wasn't always an extraction shooter. It actually started out as a more traditional co-op game. But then the developers made this huge pivot. They shifted to a high-stakes extraction loop, and that one change completely redefined the game into the tense, challenging beast that we see today. And that right there brings us to the absolute heartbeat of this game, the extraction. This is where all of the strategy, the risk, and the reward, it all just collides. For anyone who's new to this genre, here's the deal. It's all about getting in, grabbing the goods, and getting out. You deploy, you scavenge for valuable loot, and then you book it to an extraction point to escape. But, and this is a big but, if you get taken out before you extract, you lose it all. Not just the stuff you found, but the gear you brought in with you. Yeah, the stakes are unbelievably high. That risk, it starts before you even set foot on the map. You have to decide what gear to bring. So what's it going to be? Do you go in lightweight for a quick, low-risk scouting run? Or do you kit yourself out with your best heavy-duty armor for a high-risk, high-reward shot at a boss? Every single mission starts with this crucial calculation.
All right, so you've made your choice. You're geared up. Now it's time to drop in. Let's walk through what a typical mission in this wasteland actually feels like.
Okay, so a good run, a successful expedition, really breaks down into 4 parts. First, you strategize. You're checking the bounty list for the most valuable targets. Then, you're navigating the world, dealing with enemies and all kinds of hazards. The whole time, your goal is to lock down objectives and those amazing supply drops. And finally, the most critical step of all, getting to that extraction zone and getting out of there alive. You know, every single mission has this wild duality to it. It can start out quiet, really tense, you're scoping out the terrain, marking your targets, but then it can just explode into absolute chaos in a heartbeat as the ARC descend and the real battle for survival kicks off.
Look, let's be real, the extraction genre is pretty much dominated by gritty, realistic games. You know the ones. So the big question is, how does a flashy sci-fi shooter like Arc Raiders even begin to carve out its own space?
Right, so that leads to the big question on everyone's mind. How is this actually different? What makes it a unique experience and not just another clone? Well, right off the bat, the biggest difference is just the feel of the game. You've got games like Escape from Tarkov, which are all about that slow, methodical, super realistic military sim vibe. Arc Raiders, it's the complete opposite. It just fully leans into its sci-fi identity. The movement is fast and fluid, and it's set in this colorful, futuristic world that feels completely different. So, if you really want to boil it down, what makes Arc Raiders stand out? It's that vibrant sci-fi setting, fighting alien robots instead of just other players, that super fast and fluid combat, and these unique map objectives. Trust me, it's way less about spending ages managing your inventory and much more about dynamic, in-the-moment action. Now, if you're hunting for the really good stuff, you gotta know about 2 key objectives. You've got bastions, which are these fortified spots that give you great cover and control, and then there are flashpoints, these dynamic, super challenging events that pop up on the map. You want the best gear, you're gonna have to master these high-risk zones.
But look, surviving out there in the wasteland, it's not just about what gun you're holding or how good your aim is. It's about who's got your back and the code that makes it all possible.
And don't get me wrong, you can play solo, but this game is really built from the ground up for co-op.
A solid team that's actually talking to each other, they can pull off stuff that a lone wolf could only dream of. Sharing loot, covering angles, reviving each other, that's what turns a total disaster into a legendary extraction.
And you know what's cool? The community's impact goes way beyond just what happens in a match. Your feedback is absolutely essential. It directly influences game balance, bug fixes, and what comes next. So when you play, you're not just some random player. You're actually helping shape the game's future.
And of course, with all this crazy fast-paced action, you absolutely need a smooth experience. The game's built for performance, so if you've got the hardware, you're going to want to crank up those frames. Trust me, in the middle of a firefight, you do not want to miss a single beat.
So, there it is. Arc Raiders, a super vibrant, fast-paced, and high-stakes spin on the whole extraction genre. It's a world packed with risk, reward, and some seriously relentless robots. So really, the only question left is, are you ready to join the hunt?